matchmake this?
Hey everybody! I have a kind of love-hate relationship with books based on the X-Files TV series. Specifically the fiction. I use fiction, obviously it's based on a fictional show, but when I say fiction I mean stories involving the characters as opposed to, say, behind the scenes, you know, the non-fiction books which I would deem as ones talking about the episodes, you know, reviews, talking about the stars, guides, and you know, just other discussion pieces about the production and other behind the scenes stuff. So I'm talking specifically about the fictional books, and that includes the comics even. The season 10-11 comics before the series was revived. I was like, and I had some problems with some of the stories. We had the books back in the day when the show was on, and I was like, these are okay for what they are. You know, they had their place in time. They were put out in the early days of the show, so character development and stuff there wasn't a lot of history there. So Mulder and Scully were very by the book and very what you see them in kind of seasons 1 through 3, without the, you know, the extra baggage of cancer and abduction and death and Emily and all that stuff. So they are fine for what they are. But later on, there was a patch there where we didn't really get so many novelizations. But certainly after the show ended, I don't know what happened. We seem to be getting them left, right and centre. Especially these. I don't know what they were thinking. These pre-X-Files books, so books where we have the one where Mulder is like 14, 15 or something, and both of them, basically, we have a Mulder book and a Scully book where they're both teens, and the Mulder one, I think, is pretty much what I expect. The Scully one, oh, I have thoughts on the Scully one. I've been wanting to do a video on this Devil's Advocate book for a long time. So if you'd be interested in seeing that, please let me know. Also, why is the Mulder book taller than the Scully one? I don't know if that's like a commentary on sorry, Mulder being taller than Scully or what, but it is annoying for putting on my shelf. I'm just saying. But there were those, and then we got these anthology books. I have a point here. This is a Trust No One. I do own the Truth Is Out There one, except I cannot find it on my shelf for some reason. But anyway, these are anthologies, collections of short stories that are nothing but bad fan fiction, which leads into what I'm going to talk about today. But as somebody who's spent way too much time on the likes of Gossamer and stuff like that, you know, lived each day on ephemera waiting for new stories to be uploaded, reading bad fan fiction that I had to pay £20 for in just this one book. Just this one book. I paid £40 for the 2 books. These are bad. These are bad. I'm never going to review. This is my opportunity to bemoan these. There are stories here where the characters are so out of character. There's one story, I don't remember if it's in this one or the other one. Scully just agrees with everything that Mulder says. He comes up with the dumbest ideas and theories, and Scully's just like, yeah, okay, I'll go along. And I'm like, that's not Scully! What the hell? And I'm like, people got paid. And the reason why I would not review these is because it is not fair to pick on the people that are featured in these books, because it makes me look like I'm jealous about the fact I wasn't featured. But no, I don't want to be unfair to the authors. I know even bad fan fiction has its fans. These are not it. I think there's like one story, there's a pre-X-Files Mulder story, like when he was in the BSU kind of thing. in one of these, at the start, it's like the first story in the whole book, and then it just goes down from there. There's one story in one of these books that has Mulder newly engaged and in their own house, and you'd be like, okay, Sketch, you're a shipper, that's your thing, right? And I'm like, no, it's so badly written. It's that kind of thing that makes me go, this is why no Romos don't want Mulder and Scully to be together. This is the kind of thing that they were worried about. And I'm like, that's not Mulder and Scully. And I'm like, there are plenty of free fan fictions out there that you can just read and enjoy without having to pay this much money for a paperback book. I'm sorry. I have serious issues with that. So come today. Well, not today. We should go back. Earlier this year, end of last year, it was announced that there would be a new book coming out set after the events of the season 11 finale. And I lost my... I won't lie. I went on a tirade. My poor carer who was here at the time, I lost my shit. I just went, no, leave it alone, let it die. And I know that a lot of that is from my anger regarding the revival and how it was handled and stuff like that. But I looked at this, it was like, oh, it's by this New York Times published author, Claudia Gray. And I'm like, I recognise that name, but I don't think I really know her work. So that wasn't the issue, but I was like, okay, how much involvement has Chris Carter had, like oversight wise? I wasn't sure if this was going to have because there are some books that get like Chris Carter do a foreword or something like that. So I was like, how much oversight, how much input has he had? And obviously we've had all the stuff regarding the I hate to say these words, reboot that's happening. And I was just like, just let them be. Just let Mulder and Scully go off, be happy, blah, la, 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 la. And it didn't help. The summary was like, oh, there's this, Mulder and Scully choose to raise their new baby together, but their relationship is still tenuous. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. Really, we finally get somewhere with their relationship getting back together, and you're really going to do this? Oh, but will they, won't they? And I'm like, oh my god. And then it's like, but meanwhile, there's somebody with electricity powers and somebody with smoke powers. I don't remember the summary off the top of my head, but you got to bear in mind, I read this, and the more I read it, I was just like, what is this, some kind of freaking MCU superheroes X-Men thing or something? Or it sounded like something out of Spider-Man, just this person with electric powers and then somebody who disappears into smoke. I was like, okay. So I went on a tirade to my carer, and I was like, and especially because I pre-ordered the book, and it was like £25. And I was like, you kidding me? And I mean, fine, I'm part of the problem. I pre-ordered it. But I was like, £25 to pre-order this book. I'm like, leave it be. Please, just leave them alone. Let them go. If you're going to do a reboot, move on, whatever, carry on. I just can't even at this point. But, like I say, I think a lot of that anger was fueled by the revival. But I just wanted them to let it die sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I love Mulder and Scully. I want to see them more. I am part of the problem. I recognise this so badly. But at the same time, I'm like, just stop. Anyway, July 30th. It is today, as I record this. And unfortunately, I do not have a hard copy because Amazon, despite the fact I pre-ordered it, decided, that's great, you've pre-ordered it, but what about if we deliver it to you 2 weeks after release date? So I do not have a hard copy. But I do have my... I mean, I wouldn't have been able to read the hard copy anyway, but I wanted it as a physical, look, here it is, kind of thing. But today, The X-Files, Perihelion, written by Claudia Gray, was released. And I had the Audible version pre-ordered. Thankfully, there was a version read by Saskia... I don't remember the surname. I'll put it down below. So I've spent all today listening to that. It's a 9.5 hour long book. And yeah, I went in, I was like, this is glorified fan fiction. I went in with my thoughts so low. I was ready to make a book and go, what the hell? This is capitalism gone mad and all that stuff. 9.5 hours later, well actually 7.5 hours later, I listened to it at 1.5 speed, but it's actually not that bad. I actually recommend this book for X-Files fans out there. I know I've taken a lot of preamble to get to this point, but I just wanted to give an idea of how my history with reading the books and stuff like that, trying to hear Mulder and Scully's voices in my head and other characters, you know, and some authors are really good at doing that. These authors are not. It happens. But genuinely, and I don't know Claudia Gray's level of fandom, whether she was just hired to write this, or if she was actually a fan of the show, if she's written fan fiction in the past or whatever. But genuinely, this was really well written. I could really hear Mulder and Scully. There were parts early on that made me... like, they have this whole thing where Mulder and Scully, yes, agree that they're going to raise their child together, and they've moved into a townhouse together. I'm not going to give... This is a... I'm going to give some general ideas of stuff that goes on, but this is going to be as spoiler-free as possible. So I will not ruin this, because I really do recommend that if you're a fan and you're curious, you go check it out. That would be my short review of it. But yeah, there's this bit where apparently they've moved into a townhouse. This is like at the beginning of the book. So, and you're like, oh, okay, that's nice. But they're sleeping in separate rooms because they're still trying to figure out their relationship. And I'm like, okay, really? Are you going to do that will they, won't they thing? Please don't do that. I know, I'm too exhausted with that shit. Especially because I did feel like we'd gotten to a point where I was like, okay, no, that's fine. But it is actually presented in a way that the show, you know, just decided to gloss over, you know, dealing with the fact that they both still have a lot of insecurities, a lot of trauma, and a lot of heartache over not only stuff that has happened recently, and especially in the My Struggle episodes, but from their past and the separation and Mulder's depression, and that there's still a lot of stuff there that they are not talking about. They're not doing their normal communication thing, and so it makes them sleeping in separate bedrooms feel a lot more realistic and well handled than the show did, which I really appreciated, because I did start to go, this feels a little, and unfortunately it does then you know, kind of give you some kind of idea of where it wants to go story-wise with their relationship, in the most cheesiest of ways. But I say that, it feels a bit rushed at the end, to be honest, but I will get to that. But it does feel a lot more fair, a lot more realistic, a lot more characteristic, and I have to give full kudos to those, to that. And also there's a lot of well-handled implementation of gay and non-binary characters, which again is something that the show was absolutely awful about. There is interesting how do I mention this? Skinner gets mentioned. I'm not going to talk about him, but Skinner gets mentioned, and I don't feel like that storyline is well handled. Again, that mention is just, it felt a bit swept under the rug near the end. He's barely mentioned. It's only like a couple times. but it felt at the end a bit swept under the rug. Okay, we for future books, woo! And to be honest, if there's more books from either Claudia Gray or in this series, I will actually genuinely be interested to see more, especially with the world building that's been done here to continue the consortium, you know, the syndicate post what happened with Smoking Man and stuff at the end of My Struggle 4. I felt that was nicely handled. However, Reyes does not get a mention at all. And I do wonder how much of that is because of what this book tries to do, in that it does not want to answer too many questions regarding what was posed at the end of My Struggle 4, in that annoying way that this show does, in that, yeah, so this might have happened, but I'm not going to talk about it. And it does feel odd that Scully doesn't even make a passing reference to Reyes. I was just like, okay, they mentioned literally everybody else. But Reyes doesn't get mentioned. I'm just like, okay. But I am fascinated. I genuinely, I don't know, like I say, I do not know if Gray had seen the show before, if she knew it, but there are a lot of emotional references here to stuff from the past. Emily, Scully's abduction, certain case files, you know, like Schnauz and Dwayne Barry and Donnie Faster and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff gets brought up to, I guess, especially if you're not necessarily, if you don't know the show maybe so well. I don't know how this would come across to somebody who's not a fan of the show. But it genuinely, I did wonder how much of it was there to build up on that trauma and that emotion, to give these characters a lot more depth if you didn't necessarily know them, or just to remind you of how much shit these characters have been through. I felt that was really well done and really well handled and really well researched if Gray hadn't seen the show before. I don't know if she went back and binge watched it or if she was handed notes or how it was done. But I thought it was really well done and really well implemented. There is a case file here. There's a case file. See, this is my biggest... This book genuinely had me emotionally gripped. The Mulder and Scully emotional story, I am not even kidding. There's an argument they have like halfway through, and we finally get a lot of emotional, like, finally input from Mulder regarding stuff with William and that, and I was tearing up inside. And there's a line near the end, I won't repeat it or say who it was. There's a line near the end and it got said, genuinely just thinking about it now even, I had to pause it and take a good minute or two for just some heavy breathing and trying not to cry. I was emotionally gut punched. The Mulder Scully characterization here is genuinely well done. But the weaker points for me were some pacing, especially around the case file and the kind of conspiracy myth arc side of things and how they were handled. You have this case file that follows this killer, the serial killer of pregnant women, which of course then brings Scully into his orbit, that may have electrical powers or not, but he gets obsessed with Scully and we're like, what does he believe and stuff like that. And every now and then you'll get this bit where it's like, he's honing in on certain pregnant women because, and you're like, okay, and you never really get an answer. They never interrogate this guy. His story is just like, it gets to this point and then it's just like, okay, we're done with that now. We want to move back to the conspiracy. So Yeah, we're done with that now. Goodbye. Goodbye. Go away, weird guy. We don't have any explanation for what he's trying to learn. He thinks that Scully, because he says, he's like, the final words are like, I just wanted to know. And it's like, what? What did you want to know? Maybe I missed something. If I did, can somebody please put down in the comments? But I was just sat there going, okay. And it gets pushed aside for this myth arc story thread, which again is trying to set up this new kind of syndicate kind of group, you know, to continue, and that's fair, because we always got the impression that Smoking Man was working with other people to release this virus that was supposed to kill off like 99% of the world. So we didn't know who these other people he was working with were. So it makes sense to have this other group. They have a dumb name, I'm just saying. But, actually, it makes sense. Their name makes sense. But I'm sorry. I just, okay. But it turns out that they're just like, so you have this kind of conspiracies line, and they get part of their storyline gets mentioned early on, and then they get pushed aside for this case file that is drawing Mulder and Scully back into the FBI, you know, after they've been suspended and stuff at the end of My Struggle 4. And they get this whole other story gets pushed aside for the case file. And then a bit more of the conspiracy gets threaded in, and you get this informant added that's supposed to, you know, talk with Mulder and stuff like that. And then they get forgotten again. That was easily, I'm sorry, the stuff at Mystica with Cherish, God, my brain's just gone blank on what her name was. I can't even, you know what, they say her surname so many times, and my brain has just, it's really hot here, you'll have to forgive me. I'm sweating buckets as well. I'm in this small room. But I had to do this video straight after finishing listening to it, because literally I was so choked up at the end. But at the same time, I just felt there was pacing issues. Yeah, the stuff in Mystica was really like pushed aside to the end, and then they were like trying to rush to complete it. With like this Robin character as well, and I was just like, okay, so I felt like the pacing and the distribution of the story threads were a little weak. That would be my biggest pet peeve. That, and there were a couple of issues with silly little pet peeves that I have, like at one point they say about how Mulder and Scully miss their past, you know. Mulder says he misses the country house, and then it says 10 years gone now, and I was like, wait, this happened straight after My Struggle 4. How is it 10 years gone? It's 10 years gone if you're saying, like, I mean, it's not 10 years gone, it's what, 6 years now since My Struggle 4 aired. But I was like, and I don't know if I just understood it, if maybe it meant that it'd been 10 years since they'd got the house in the countryside in Farth Corner. But I was like, that's an odd one. And then they say, apparently they decided to move into a townhouse because, you know, the country house was too far, and the Scully's apartment was this, that and the other. And I was like, wait. Scully's apartment, oh, because of the tech in Scully's apartment. And I was like, no, Scully's house went boom. No, nobody's moving back into that. That's why I thought she'd moved back in with Mulder already. So I was just like, there's a little oversight. There were some little things that just made me go, okay, they missed that one. There were a few things there. There were some other things I picked up on, but otherwise continuity far better than the show ever did. We know how allergic the show is to continuity, so no, it's got problems. It's not perfect in any way, and I'm sorry, it is still essentially a good fan fiction. It's a good fan fiction, but is it worth £25? How much do you like your hardcover copy? I don't know. It's just difficult when these things are licensed. The fact that, 20th Century Fox have licensed this, 20th... What is it called now? Now it's over at Disney. It's like 20th Television or something like that, isn't it? But the fact that it's been licensed out and they're getting money for what you can get for free on, on any of the sites, AO3 and fanfiction.net and stuff like that. The fact that I have been writing for a long while now, a post... I haven't written a fanfiction in, like, nearly 2 decades. But the end of the end of season 11 pissed me off so much. I have been writing a post that final episode fanfiction because I had so much anger and I was like pouring it into this fanfiction. But I've seen more recently other fanfictions that have done a really good job of covering, post that scene. And I've been able, multi-chapter fan fictions. And I've been able to read those for free, and they have been just as good as this book. Like I say, not diminishing how good or how much I highly recommend this book at all. I really also highly recommend the audio version. If you have an Audible account, Audible, if you want to sponsor me, sponsoring the sight impaired person might be the ideal. No, genuinely, if you have an Audible account and you have a credit to spare, the reading of this, Saskia, like I say, don't remember her surname, she does a really good job. So I do recommend it, but like you say, you could get, there was this whole project where there were people reading out fan fictions, wasn't there? Making them into audio files. I don't think it's certainly no worse, but I don't necessarily think it's any better to warrant a £25 price tag. It's just a little excessive, hardcover or not. But no, if you were after a good one, check out fanfiction. I know that's a minefield. Your percentage, your chance of getting, your ratio kind of chance of getting a great fan fiction, not always particularly high. This is good though, and I do recommend it. And I take back everything I said. I had concerns. I had genuine concerns. Especially because I thought it was just going to be fan fiction, just paid for fan fiction, and it is. But it was highly entertaining and a good waste of my time. So this is the point where I would love to hold this up. This is why I'm so annoyed I don't have a hard copy. But please, if you're an X-Files fan, or if you're curious, especially after seeing, especially I think if you were ready to give up after the revival. And the stuff that happened. This was an emotional roller coaster, and I really recommend it. So yeah, if you're a fan or curious, I highly recommend Perihelion by Claudia Gray, the new X-Files novel. But that's it for now. I know this was a long, rambling video, but I really wanted to get my thoughts out there, and I would really love to hear your thoughts if you've read the book. Your thoughts on previous novelizations, and that kind of thing. It would be really fun to and chat with you about your thoughts. We have the next official archives coming out, September? God knows when Amazon will deliver that to me, but I have that pre-ordered. So that is the Conspiracy Files. We had the archive files before that covered Monster of the Week episodes and those case files, and we are finally getting, I know the author was talking about it for a while, when the previous book came out about how he really wanted to work on, you know, the conspiracy side of stuff. So yeah, we're getting an official Archives Myth Arc book coming, so I will be doing a reaction to that when that turns up. Really looking forward to that, because I did really like the other book. So and of course, yes, I know you've been waiting. I was going to get it done the end of last year, and it just still hasn't happened yet. But hopefully this August, September, probably more September, end of the summer, Tyranny X-Files Season 6 will be coming. So I hope, I look forward to seeing you guys in the chat for that those premieres. But please, for now, take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you somewhere down the line.